There are lots of things in the Byler fandom that I hadn't really come across before in other fandoms I've been in. But one of the most significant ones I'd say that are very widespread and iconic in the Byler fandom are Bylergates. Now, Bylergates are sort of theories that one person will start and then lots of other people will sort of come across it, add to the theory, and then it becomes this entire big thing where it's a famous theory in the fandom. Sort of, we kind of agree that they're going to happen, or at least not all of them. Some of them are really stupid from leaks that either people that don't actually know what's going to happen or Malevins try to spread. So there's sort of a bit of inside jokes going on there for things that probably aren't going to happen, but because they've become such an iconic thing in the Byler fandom, we can't ignore. I'd say Birthdaygate have become popularized in season 4, especially as more people became a fan of Byler and the rise of Byler Tumblr and everything like that. And as we're getting more season 5 content now, I think it's only appropriate to go through all the Byler gates, or at least the gates I think are the most important, sort of most common, because there's some smaller ones that we can include as the Byler gates, but I don't think they're sort of in the main idea of Byler gates. And initially, I was going to do a video explaining them, but Kay has already done a really good video on that. So if you want them fully explained, then go check that out. But me personally, I'm going to be tier ranking all of the Byler gates depending on how much I like them and how much I actually think they're going to happen. Because as someone who sort of tries to grow my channel on analysis of the show, I'd like to think that I think about this show in way too much detail, way more than the regular person, and look at tiny little details that really shouldn't be looked into, but I look into them anyway. So I'm kind of hoping that this helps with my Bylergate of tier ranking. Obviously, some of these opinions will be my personal opinions that you probably won't, well, you might agree with, but they're not necessarily right. But then other things, sort of, I'll be bringing more evidence stuff into it. Now, this video is a bit different to my other videos because we have a microphone now. How exciting. I've got, well, not so many, but I've got a lot of comments on my other videos saying about the mic quality, which I completely appreciate. The first video I made, I really didn't think was gonna reach that many people. I literally just made it because I wanted to compile all the evidence for a queer Mike Wheeler for myself. And then the next videos I filmed after that, I used the blanket trick where sort of you put a blanket over yourself to make it seem like a soundproof room, even though I sort of just looked like a weird person with a blanket over my head, stooped over my laptop. But now we have a microphone. And also, I guess you can see me now. I've sort of, for the past few videos, I sort of just edit it over my face, and also no one wants to see me under a blanket all really hot, so I've sort of not shown my face. But for the more casual videos that I want to try and do now, which I will still be doing video essays, but sort of so I can upload a bit more, the casual ones will also be here. You can see me, so hello. So I have my laptop here, and I've created a tier list on Tier Maker, which is public, so I am going to put it in the description if you guys want to rank Bylergates yourself, and also tag me on Tumblr because I would love to see that. It's at Eddie Munson Brainrot. And basically, I haven't chosen every Bylergate because I think that there's way too many, and there's some that I know just aren't going to happen, or ones that are sort of too small to include in this video because I don't want this video to go on for hours like my other ones. So I've chosen the ones that are most significant in my opinion. So I've made this tiered list up myself. I haven't done the usual I wanted my own categories. So we have at the very top, canon to me. This is stuff that I feel like is already canon, or is so easily canon that I feel like it's not even up to debate anymore. Then we have my sanity at stake, which is things that need to happen, otherwise I am going to go insane, and I don't know what they're thinking by not making this canon. And then we have duffers, come on, because that's sort of stuff that is a bit less than my sanity at stake, but it's also stuff that if they didn't make canon, I feel like it's quite stupid and really easy to make canon. And then we have like it but not mad if it doesn't happen, because there's some things that I do like, but again, not mad if it doesn't happen. That one's pretty self-explanatory. And then we have I'm ambivalent on them. I don't really mind. And then we have maybe we are delusional because we're called delusional so much, and sometimes we are, that is okay. And then we have wiping from our collective memory, which again, pretty self-explanatory. So the first one we're going to cover is Colorgate. So essentially, Colorgate is Mike's color is blue and Will's color is yellow, and when they fight, they mix their colors. So Will's wears blue and Mike wears yellow. So this happened in season 3 Rain Fight and also in season 4 of Rinkomania. And this also goes back to Robin's line in season 3 when she was decoding the Russian code and she said when blue meets yellow in the West, and obviously Mike is blue, Will is yellow, when we meet in the West in season 5, that means that they will finally be canon. So for me, I think how much effort that goes into the wardrobe department of Strange Things, and we know that it even goes down to the costume designer putting triangles on Robin's shirt to signal because it was a gay code in the 80s, I think sort of shows just how much they think about its colouring, and nothing in Strange Things is unintentional. So to me, this is already put in the wrong one, canon to me, because it's gone on for at the very least 2 seasons now, and I just feel like it would be very hard for that to just be a coincidence. I really don't think that that's just a happy incident that happens sometimes. I think it's very intentional. So then the next one that we're moving on to is Lettergate. This is probably my favorite gate out of all of them. I'll probably say that to more as we go on to the video, but I just think it's so good. So basically, Lettergate is at the Rinkomania fight when Will is like, well, you didn't write to me. And Mike, we obviously know, has trouble writing Love, Mike, and Elle's letters. So basically, there's this theory that Mike did write to Will, but he signed them off as Love Mike because he loves Will and he doesn't love Elle. And it would be it would be such a good way of showing that he loves Will instead of Elle in such a subtle way. I think by Elle emphasizing that Mike couldn't even write love, I think that automatically sets it up for season 5 for there to at least be a parallel, because it wouldn't make sense to sort of put such a heavy emphasis on the fact that he couldn't write it if we're not shown an instance where he can write it for Will's letters. And also, I think there's a reason why he didn't send Will any letters, because they left at a relatively good state of their relationship at the end of season 3. They weren't as close as they were maybe in season 2, but they sort of settled it with themselves. So I think it would be strange for him to not write to Will at all without a reason. So for this reason, I am going my sanity is at stake, because it is my absolute favourite Bylergate. And even though it isn't canon just yet, I don't think, because I think we do need to see those letters. And we do know that we are getting scenes in Mike's bedroom because of behind the scenes photos. So I think it is very likely that it could happen. And I think they wouldn't have to do any legwork to it in season 5. They can just show a stack of letters that are addressed to Will and it would be fine. Next, we move on to Birthdaygate, which again is one I really like. So it's going to be high up on this tier ranking no matter what. But essentially, when Elle, Mike, and Will go to Rinkomania, on the camera, when they're filming Elle getting bullied, it says March 22nd, which we know is Will's birthday. But none of the characters acknowledge this at all. The Duffs have come out and said that this is a mistake, they didn't mean to, and they said that they're going to go back and edit it, but it has been 3 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they haven't edited it, so it really feels intentional at this point, especially because they're so detail orientated. I feel like they wouldn't let this slip through the cracks. And the theory is that, well, either Mike forgot, everyone forgot, it just makes Will's life even sadder, or Vecna is interfering with their memories and making them forget Will's birthday so he feels isolated and is more likely to join Henry in season 5. Now, I think this could be very likely, especially because we have the evidence that Mike and Will always call their separation from each other a year instead of 6 months. And even though this could be because they're very needy and 14 or 15 or however old they are, I mean, Will's going to be 15 at this point. But I think it's very likely. I don't think even Joyce and Jonathan, there's no way that they would forget Will's birthday, because they're such like a loving family and they love Will, and he's sort of the center of the family in my opinion. So I just don't think this is something that they would do. So I think it's very likely that Vecna is interfering with their memories. And I think this would be a great link between season 4 and 5 to make the seemingly insignificant feel a lot more important. So I think I'm gonna have to go my sanity is at stake again, because I don't think I can deal with Will's birthday just being forgotten and having no memory of it, because they had so many dates to choose from and they chose March 22nd. It feels really intentional. Now we move on to one of the silly ones, and this is Chancegate. So basically, Will has about 80 million love interests, and a leak said that a person would that we've a character that we've met before would show interest in Will, but Will wouldn't requite it. He'd sort of be uninterested. So everyone on Byler Tumblr went through who it could be and landed on Chance, who is a member of the basketball team. And it's sort of spiraled from there. He's been in fan fiction. I'm pretty sure there's been fan art. So essentially, just sort of shipping Will with this other guy that is like one out of like the 20 love interests that people have been trying to say he's going to have instead of Mike this season. So, I mean, I feel like it's not going to be on top. I think it's hilarious. I think it's funny to run with one of the love interests that really are. I mean, I think the funniest love interest he has is Trendy Bargoer, but I do like Chance, and I have been reading a fic where he plays quite an important role at the moment, and that's been entertaining. So, and also, very, very few people actually think this is going to happen. So, I think it's not so bad to be wiping from our collective memory, but I'm going to say maybe we are delusional, because that seems accurate. Now let's do another weird one, and that is local village gate. So basically, at the very start of season 5 filming, one of the first scenes filmed was Mike and Elle on the roof of WSQK radio station, and we could only see what Mike was saying, not what Elle was saying. So 11 put this through AI to see what he was saying, and it came out that they would go to a local village and there'd be 3 waterfalls and they'd live happily ever after. So naturally, this is hilarious to me, because I mean, I'm not putting it past some of the writing team to do something as sort of corny as that. Like, in relation, maybe it's the Lord of the Rings reference, I think. I'm not entirely sure about that. But I kind of have a soft spot for this one. I mean, I have very mixed feelings about that rooftop scene. I don't know what it's going to be on. But I just, that wouldn't be us being delusional. But I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going to put it in wiping from our collective memory, because as hilarious it is, we don't need to think about that. Moving on to one of the bigger, more popular ones now is Churchgate. So essentially, there's going to be a church used in season 5. Pretty sure it's in the Upside Down because it has vines all over, which would make sense. Even though the Upside Down is crawling into the real world this season, I think it's more like it's the Upside Down. And there is a theory going round the Will is going to be vecned or possessed in this church, and he's going to hurt Mike. And Mike is going to have to confess his love to Will to snap him out of this vecna or possession, because of all the religious trauma around sort of obviously gayness and the church. And I really like this theory. I don't think I'm as for it as, say, Lettergate or Birthdaygate, but I do think it's really smart. I think that it has to be a very high stakes situation for Mike to admit his feelings for Will, and I think this would be the perfect instance. And also, there was a lot of sort of religious imagery in last season as well, and down to the conservative, conformist values that Hawkins value. So I don't think it's going to be my sanities at stake, because I don't think about this on a weekly level as I do for the others. maybe even daily. So I am going to put this in Duffers Come On because I think it would be so good. It would add to the themes of anti-conformity that they want to add to the show. And I think they'd be really missing out if they didn't do this. But again, my feelings aren't as strong as Lettergate and Birthdaygate for it. So then we move on to, let's do a sillier one now. Scriptgate. So, if you're in the Byler fandom, sort of just after season 4, volume 2, you would know that 8flix, or whatever they were called, said that they had scripts from the season, and people would pay for these scripts, and some of them were Byler scenes, and surprise, surprise, they weren't actually the scripts. So then that led to Netflix having to actually release some scripts, which is great because it meant that we actually got genuine Byler scenes, but it did mean that we got some hilarious, like, they were almost, they were kind of too good to be true, because the iconic line of his mouth was dry as the Sahara Desert, or whatever it was, I feel like isn't really, from the scripts we've seen before, isn't really in line of their writing style. But I fell for it at the time. So many people fell for it at the time. And I think, just for our own sanity, I think this has to go in wiping from our collective memory. Next, we move on to Playlistgate. So essentially, in season 2, a lot of the characters were made a playlist on Spotify. It was official. It was, all of them had like sort of fun names. But then eventually, I think they were all deleted. But Mike and Will's were up for the longest, I think. And Mike specifically was called Mike's Basement Beats. And the first song on it was Small Town Boy, which, if you don't know Small Town Boy, is by Bronski Beat. It's a great song. I'd recommend you go listen to it. But it's essentially someone fleeing their small town because of the homophobia going on there and how he can't sort of be his true self. And I wonder who that sounds like. And essentially, people think that this is being deleted because it's too much of a spoiler, which I completely agree with. If you follow me on Tumblr, you will know I'm the biggest small town boy Mike truther ever alive. I think this would be, if he gets Vecna'd in season 5, I think this should be his Vecna song. And for that reason, it's already going in canon to me. Because in my opinion, Small Town Boy is his favourite song. And also, to add to Small Town Boy, this playlist just had so many gay songs on it, to be honest. And if you're looking for another playlist like that, ST Turn, which Finn Wolfhard made during the filming of season 5, has also a bunch of gay songs on, which he is slowly deleting song by song, which again I think is to add to the spoiler. So if we're including Playlist Gate into that playlist, it's 100% canon to me. Next, we move on to Lover's Lake Gate. So basically, this is the theory that because Lover's Lake split in 2 at the end of season 4, with all the gates finally being opened and the rifts being created, and because this is the shape of a heart, and because it was quite significant in the maps in season 2 when they were figuring out Will's mind map in the buyer's house, people think that Mike and Will are going to have their first kiss in Lover's Lake. And this can also be backed up by the fact that in season 5 behind the scenes and in shots we've got from the trailer, both Mike and Will seem to have wet hair at some point. Don't get mad at me. I like it, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's been some other people that seem like they've got wet. I still think that Mike and Will are going to have a scene alone during the rain or something. I don't think they're wet enough to have gone in the lake. I think it will just sort of be heavy rain, maybe parallel to the rain fight, which I'd love. I would more like a rain confession and everything rather than Lover's Lake. It doesn't have my heart. I know so many people love it, and I love the fan art that people create of it. Personally, I'm gonna go like it, but not mad if it doesn't happen. Realistically, it feels too mean to put it in air, so I'm gonna keep it and like it, but not mad if it doesn't happen. So next is the soundtrack gate. So essentially, this is a lot of Byler moments have been soundtracked with the same songs as interesting uses for others. So basically, during the season 4 van scene, it was the same soundtrack. It lined up with Jonathan and Nancy's first kiss. And then during, this isn't a Byler moment, but when Elle kisses Mike at the end of season 3, it's the same soundtrack as when Robin comes out to Steve. So, to me, again, this is an easy canon to me. This feels really intentional. You don't just accidentally reuse the sound of someone coming out to their best friend to a couple kissing. It just feels really, there's so much thought goes into the soundtrack. It's one of the best soundtracks in all of TV, if you ask me. But it doesn't feel accidental that they would do that at all. So yeah, this is an easy canon to me. So then we move on to Flickergate. So again, I love Flickergate. In season 1, when Will is like, oh, it's a 7, and then he goes off and gets taken by the Demogorgon, the lights flicker when Mike is looking up at them. So there is the explanation that Vecna was following Will from that very point. There's also a theory that Will gets powers in season 5, which before I wasn't really a fan of, but since season 5 clips have come out, I can so see happening. So basically, he has powers, and Will and Mike kiss in the Upside Down in season 5 in that exact same spot, because we know that the Upside Down is stuck in 1983 on the day that Will went missing. So for younger Will and Mike, this would be happening at exactly the same time, and some people think it's going to extend out to Will being truthful with Mike, confessing his love there, and then it's going to end in a kiss. So again, this is really easy for me. My sanity is at stake. This is my number 1 ideal situation where Byler will become canon for Flickergate. I love Lettergate and I love Birthdagate. I feel like if Birthdaygate was revealed before Flickergate and then Lettergate was revealed after Flickergate, I think that would be my perfect order of things happening. I just think it's so cute and it links back to season 1, and I think that for me that would be perfect. After this, we move on to Phonegate. So Phonegate is that Mike was actually calling Will all the time, but because Joyce was using the phone, or because Vecna was interfering in the same way as he did for Birthdaygate, he wasn't getting through to Will, but then Will thinks that Mike wasn't calling him, even though Mike was, and it's this whole meta thing. And especially later in season 4 with Dustin's line that Mike was always whining about, the line being not available, even though he can't call Elle on that line, because it was established in season 3 that they're going to have to call on the Cerebo using the walkie-talkies because the government is still trying to track her. So to me, this is an easy canon to me. I think the inclusion of Dustin's line at the end of season 4 really cements the whole Mike actually calling. And I think during the Rinkomania fight, he could have said that he did call, but maybe he was a bit too embarrassed because Will just wasn't calling at all, wasn't even attempting to call back. And I think he just felt really hurt, and sort of as a teenager, I feel like that's really a normal reaction for that sort of thing. So to me, again, canon to me. Then we move on to Heartgate. So essentially, this is that there is a lot of heart imagery when it comes to Mike and Will scenes. For example, in the van when they're looking at each other and it looks like there's hearts in their eyes. So there's not much more to that, in my opinion. But I think, to me, I like it, but not mad if it wasn't intentional. Then we have Curtaingate. So I'd say this is one of the lesser known ones, but essentially it argues that Mike and Elle are always framed by a closed curtain. They're not being truthful with each other, and it links back to Murray's line in season 2, I think, about things seeming better behind curtains in reference to Jonathan and Nancy. I want to say, if I'm wrong, please correct me on that. But to me, this is canon to me because they put way too much effort into set design for this to be unintentional. Again, I'm a firm believer that everything in Strange Things is intentional, and I don't think they would just do this accidentally so many times. The next gate is Motel Gate, where during the 2-day skip, which I hate so much because we could have seen so much going on in that 2 days, and then Eddie died, and then we're just supposed to sort of be like, oh, I guess they got his body out of Hawkins, and like it doesn't make sense, and I'm not going to rant about it for too long because that'd be a really boring video. But basically, it's a theory that the Byers, Mike and Argyle, stayed in a motel whilst they were on their way back to Hawkins, and something Byler-esque could have happened because Mike and Will probably would have shared a room in this motel. And I think some people think they're going to call back to it in season 5. There is a theory that they did actually film things then, but they decided to scrap it because this finale was too long, because there was a motel right by the gas station where Elle and Jonathan were sort of seeing if she could get a place on the plane, and it would have made sense they could have rented out that motel for the actors to stay in. And there was behind the scenes of Finn and Charlie on their phones. I think you know which picture I'm on about, but it looks like they're in a motel, so it makes sense if that was the same motel that they filmed scenes in. So for me, I like it, but I'm not mad if it doesn't happen. I think it's a good theory, but I think because there's the unspecifics about it of what we think is actually going to happen. The next gate we have is Shoegate. I really like this theory. I think it's so good for picking up on the little details. In season 5, there's a theory that Will and Mike are going to swap shoes. So in season 2, Mike had fully white shoes, and then it's now turned to black in season 5, and Will had mainly black shoes, and now it's turned to white in season 5. And they're still the same brand, and there's also been clips that they've swapped shoes and that they've also swapped clothes. So, especially with the theory that Will is going to be staying at Mike's house during most of season 5, I think this really makes sense. I think for me, though, it's a like it but not mad if it doesn't happen, because I think there's gates that I want to happen more. And this isn't party, but I do think I like it, and it's a simple thing that they could easily do and would make sense for what's going on during the time. The last gate is Possession Gate. So Possession Gate is a theory that Mike got possessed during season 2 by Vecna, and this is why he's acted like he has in season 3 and 4. So for me, I think it's going to go because if you've watched my queer coding Mike Wheeler video, I think I like it more if the change is explained by him just having internalized homophobia and him just being a bit of an arsehole as a teenager. I think that works a bit better, but I still like, if I'm sure I could be converted if other people spoke differently about it to me. So that is all the Byler gates that I deemed like significant enough to rate. So the final rundown is, canon to me is Colorgate, Playlistgate, Soundtrackgate, Phonegate, and Curtaingate. My sanity's at stake is Lettergate, Birthdagate, and Flickergate. Duffers, come on, is Churchgate. Like it but not mad if it doesn't happen is Lover's Lake Gate, Heartgate, Motelgate, and Shegate. And is Possession Gate. Maybe we are delusional is Chancegate. And wiping from our collective memory is Local Village Gate. And which one's that? Oh, Scriptgate. How could I forget about Scriptgate? But yeah, so that is my rundown of all the Byler gates. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope the microphone actually made a difference this time. And I will be soon back with more Byler content. So